Okay, okay. I do believe we are now live. I'll just make sure that that is all safe and sound on Facebook as well. Make sure that you can hear me, guys. If you can hear me, just give me a quick yes in the comments. And I want to welcome you to our third installment of a brief, quick catch-up with the Sharks, also known as our investors. We've spent some time with Andrew Banks. We've spent some time with Glenn Richards. And some would say we've saved the best or indeed the most controversial till last. Mr. Steve Baxter. So for those of you that have been hiding under a rock for the last few years, I will give you a bit of an overview on who he is. He's probably overhearing this story, but as a real quick synopsis, this gentleman was born in a place called Cloncurry. Did I pronounce that anywhere close to being right? Grew up in Emerald in northern Queensland. Joined the army at 15 years old, spent 9 years in the army. Then in 1994, you started your first business at the age of 23. From Adelaide, from your spare room in Adelaide, and I believe you had to add $11,000 to your name, and that was all you had, and you invested the whole lot, which I absolutely love. You created a company called SENet, which was an internet service provider. And then 2001, he created his second startup, which was called Pipe Networks, which was sold to TPG in 2010 for just shy of $400 million. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Steve, at some stage. You joined, then went over to the States, and you joined Google. I won't get you on the tangent about when you did that, but I know you worked over at Google at some stage. You now focus on early stage startups, and I believe you've got about 34 in your portfolio, of which we are fortunate enough to be one of them. And you've also been more commonly known as one of the sharks on the TV show Shark Tank. And in 2017, you were Queensland Chief Entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Steve Baxter. How are you, sir?
Good, Ryan. Thanks for the intro, mate. I appreciate it.
I know you hate all that as well, eh? Mate, first and foremost, thank you for giving up your time. I know you're a really, really busy guy. And when I asked yourself, Andy, and Glenn to give up a bit of time and share some wisdom with our followers and our audience, not one of you batted an eyelid about it as well. So we do appreciate it. I don't want to get too caught up on the corona side of things. I know you've got opinions on it, and I know you've got opinions on our borders and our state borders and when we should be opening things up. If anybody wants to find out any of Steve's thoughts, jump on Facebook to see all of that. But I want to put a positive spin on all of this. You're a tech guy, and I mean that in the most endearing way. And I want to know, has that always been the case? So obviously going from the army to getting into tech, I want to understand that transition first. Where did it all come from?
Yeah, I think I probably always have. So my job in the army was to do with electronics and guided weapons and sort of support systems around that. That was all very uncomplicated compared to equipment nowadays. Most military equipment, when you buy it's 20 years old, to be quite honest, because of the development cycle. So they're never that cutting edge, to be honest. But from that, I'd owned a Commodore 64 computer before joining the army. We did a fair bit of digital stuff in the army. Very few of the systems were digital. I did a little bit of external university. I hadn't finished high school, but they still let me do some external subjects. It's funny, if you pay university, they'll let you do anything. Anyway, I found this thing called Linux, an operating system. It was back in sort of, late 94, probably early 94 now I think about it. You can work out, you can plug some modems into the back of a computer and turn it on, and people could dial you up, and, you could charge them for the access. So it was actually pretty cool. So it's been, for me, technology, there's no such thing as, the technology doesn't stay still. So it's a tool to get somewhere. And typically if you're using the latest and high tech, you'll actually do better than using the latest in low tech. Providing you use sensible amounts of relevant high technology methods, equipment, machinery, or in general, you can get more done, and you can definitely operate a pretty efficient business with it.
Yeah, well, that was what I was going to lean towards there, is because when you guys came on board, one of the big focuses for us was the digital program that we created. As you know, that was the one that had the economies to scale, and it was about creating efficiencies throughout the business. For us, I know our challenge, and I can only speak for us, our challenge was that we're a communication training company. We're a sales training company. So do you believe that we can communicate the same message, the same value in this environment? So via Zoom or just in technology in general?
Well, we're going to have to learn to, right? To be honest. So whether we can or we can't, then if we can't, we better hurry up and figure it out. I think so. Look, whilst it feels like 9 months, it's only been I was in the US 9 weeks ago. The 3 conferences I went to, all of them had corona outbreaks. I like to call it the Wuhan flu personally, because we all know where it came from. So it's only been 9 weeks. It's 10 weeks tomorrow, but it's just about to click over 10 weeks. So none of us, I think, if you have a business that's open, if you have a retail business, it's really tough. But if you have a business that's open that has somewhat of a long sales cycle, a 2 to 3 month sales cycle, you probably don't know exactly how this is going to go just yet, if you know what I mean. So let's face it, that first month we were all a bit shell shocked. We were all expecting 15, 20, 30, 60,000 deaths in Australia, which thankfully we didn't listen to those experts, excuse me. And from our perspective, we got into our portfolio and we helped them do some scenario planning. We ran around and we found some great professionals, lawyers and insolvency practitioners in a lot of cases, because a lot of these businesses were instantly insolvent, and helped them out. So there was a lot of triaging there. And so, so now 6 weeks ago, our sales cycle in our business as an investment house is anywhere from, how long did it take us to do our deal? It was about 4 months, actually, Ryan, in the end?
For us, we were 6.
6 months, yeah. So I would say between 6 is long, but we've probably had 7 or 8 months, if you know what I mean.
You dug up everything about us. I don't know what it was, but you wanted to know everything.
I think we just got lazy, to be honest. But anyway, but it's just long sales cycles. So a lot of businesses are in that category. A lot aren't, and I feel for them. I really do. But I don't think any of us really know how. And I don't. And I rail a bit against that. What's going to be the new normal? Funny enough, the world got back to doing stuff after the Spanish flu, which is 100 times worse than what we're going through at the moment on every relative measure and actual measure. So we will return back to that normal. I've got no doubt about it at all, to be honest, because we've done it. It's happened before, and we've done that before. Yeah. So I think the question is how long the transition will be. There's no new normal. It'll just be what it used to be. Unfortunately, the new normal may be that some businesses don't survive and don't come through this again. We've learnt maybe habits that we didn't think we wanted to do before, but now we like them. Work from home being one, for example. We're all using a lot more online services, and as an investor in online businesses, I don't mind that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, but no, we'll get back. This is not the death of the human race. This is not the death of society as we know it. It's a small pause. Like I said, Spanish flu. We got back to work after that. We'll get back to work after this one.
Yeah, perfect. I think, and that's why I'm enjoying these as well, because, and I mean this with utmost respect, yourself, Glenn and Andy, you've got the experience, you've been there, that you've done it, and some of us haven't. Like, this is the first sort of crisis that I've been through as a business owner. So, and you alluded to something in there as well. You said that a lot of the businesses that you're working around or are in, they were instantly insolvent, and you were doing a lot of triaging. Like, how did you notice that point to go, we need to intersect here, guys? We need to down tools, and we need to reach out to every single company in our portfolio. Was there a trigger?
Yeah, not one in particular. I mean, obviously, we can all recall what happened. I mean, it was like all of a sudden it was, it's a bit like the flu. The flu's probably worse. Flu's not worse. Oh my God, what's happening? What's happened here? Quick, then just a cascading. I left my overseas trip to come home because I feared I'd be quarantined on the way back unless I got back earlier. And I had the worst cold ever. Literally, I was like death warmed up the entire time I was overseas. I thought they're just going to see me, put a temperature probe in my head and put me carrying it for 2 weeks. Yeah. Didn't happen. If I'd come back 4 days later, it would have. It's sorry, now I've forgotten the bloody question.
And you always do this. What was the trigger? Was there a moment where you could see, you go, hey, this is going to blow up, guys. We need to step in.
Yeah, so I think I was back for, not even because I think there might have been a public holiday that weekend. Now I think about it, and I came back and had a short 4-day week. And then the Flatten the Curve sort of Medium article came out. Remember that? It had like 78 million views in 24 hours. It was incredible. Yeah. Let's flatten this curve, which I think is exceptionally sensible health policy, to be honest. Whereas right now we're doing exceptionally dumb health policy because we're trying to exterminate a germ that's going to come and get us anyway and just send ourselves broke in the meantime. So I've got nothing good to say about our current crop of gutless political leaders, to be honest. So we looked at it and we thought, well, okay, we changed instantly. We were talking about ways that we could actually have better hygiene and health strategies in the office. And we went over a period of a day and a half. We said, well, we just can't do that. We've just got to work from home. We're in that work from home crowd. I think it was over a weekend. So it's like, don't come Monday, or if you're going to come in, let us know. Come and grab your stuff, go home. Yeah, let's work this out. So lots of strategies. So there was no real moment there. And then it was a case of and there's something the bad businesses we spent some time on, as in the bad businesses, the businesses doing poorly, we spent more time on. Then the stories come out where businesses like going, dude, check this out, our revenue just tripled or quadrupled. We've got that in that portfolio too. So they're easier to spend time on, that's for sure.
Is it easier saying the businesses that were digitalized and they had an online product or service, they're the ones that have gone like that? Is it that obvious? Yeah. Yeah,
they have efficacy in the current environment, which a lot of them do. So they're definitely doing better. We've got some out there that didn't have levels of traction before, and they don't. There's still a certain critical mass you need for your product to get some sort of uptake, I think, to be honest. So ones out there without some critical mass, but still on that digital online space. You got to remember as well that we've just done something really dumb. We've gone to lock the healthy working population inside. The fucking stupid thing is that, excuse me, what illness do we quarantine the healthy, for Christ's sakes? So and that's led to less money in the community. So it's I've heard all sorts of terms such as cash velocity in the community. It's probably a good one. So there's less cash moving around out there. I talked to the chaps at Channel 10. I spoke to them about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're stoked. Ratings are going through the roof.
Yeah.
They've got any money to pay for advertising. So, and you're seeing the weird, stupid, you're seeing the typical knock-on effects from government interference. They've closed and they've done the lockdowns, and now they're having to put out hundreds of billions of dollars to make up for it, and then do this, and then solve the insolvency thing, solve the leasehold thing, do this and do that. There's all these little band-aids that have to go on afterwards, and the band-aids go on band-aids and go on band-aids. So, once again, probably more of a rant on my current state of government than answering your question. Sorry about that.
I had a feeling it would be good timing. That's all good. And then what about, so I'm going to touch on the government now for a second, with the stimulus packages that they've put out there and helping businesses. Well, what's your take on all of that? Should we be taking advantage of them? Is it?
I take advantage. If you qualify for it, okay, 2 things. If you qualify for it, yes, you probably should apply for it and get it. It's meant for you. The second question is, which probably should form about 25% of your thinking, do you need it? After this, then there may be some social, anytime there's buckets of government money available, there's always an overreaction. People rip it off.
Yeah.
There will be the current affair articles after this about the people who ripped it off, for example, right? So be hyper aware that you might need a social license to operate afterwards. And if you didn't need it, for example, one of our businesses, raised a bucket of cash, and they were actually eligible for the US. I can't remember the US PPP payroll protection plan. I want to say, but it's made the call that after you've just raised that much money, maybe you shouldn't apply for that. The optics are actually terrible. So yes, you should, but you should also factor into consideration: will you survive without it? How well will you survive without it? And if you'll survive really well without it, and I would sort of say, maybe this might not finish well for you if you take that.
Yeah, for sure. And we've had clients and businesses that we know that are actually they're taking those stimulus packages, the grants, as a means to actually spend on other things within the business, which I get, rather than actually using it as a runway to survive this. Which way would you go with that?
Oh, well, it depends. If the things they're spending on will lead to long-term efficiencies, I get that. That's just an investment, right? So, but when this all started, we were, our big focus, I suppose, was on businesses and understanding what runway of cash they had left. Doing the scenario planning, so we're saying, okay, so if your sales halve or go to 10% or 0, what happens? And what levers do you have to pull? We invest in tech startups. The levers you pull are people. As bad. I love tech startups because you're employing people. Essentially, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
When it goes the other direction, then the only way you get to control your costs is to, manage your staff. There's no good way to put it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we went through a lot of those scenarios. And to be honest, there's been a lot of a lot of awesome cooperation at all levels of management and the workplace floor, so to speak, inside the companies. We've had, some companies who've cut their people back from, to 4 or 3.5 days a week. And the staff have just been like, well, I'll treat this like a pay cut. I'll just keep coming in. This business needs to survive. What I think is why I'm hoping that we won't see a lot of the potential forecast mental health issues from the unemployment and stuff, and the unemployment, ad hoc unemployment situation, because we're all in the same boat. So it's not like someone's like, oh, you're out of a job. It's like, oh, it's because I was a hopeless or I was a bad prick or something like that. It's like, well, whose fault is it? And I don't know, probably some guy in a lab in China in all reality, right? So it's no one's fault. You've got a large cohort you're there with. And so I'm hoping that will not be some of the worst sort of social outcomes that unfortunately, has happened in the past.
Yeah, I think I guess the common denominator there is there's no shame in actually going under, going broke, or losing everything in this stage, right? Like, so.
Well, one thing is you see that in the workforce, everyone's sort of saying, well, let's be cooperative. And every example we've seen so far, maybe this is not out there, but where they're taking wage cuts, it's typically cascaded down from the top in a very progressive manner. As in, management taking 30 and the bottom line are taking 10%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is, I think, an exceptionally fair way to do it. A lot of alignment there. So for the most part, it's being handled really maturely. But everyone's got a breaking point too. This is why I don't like the lockdowns. I don't like the amount of time they're keeping us put away for the benefit it's giving. And at some point we can be as generous as we want, but at some point we've got to pay for it. And you do that by working and running the economy and charging taxes.
Yeah, awesome. Let me come back to tech a little bit. I want to talk AI, not artificial insemination. And with AI, obviously, we're classed as we've got a SaaS product now with our online training academy. It's something that we're, as you know, looking to incorporate into there. How big a player is that going to be in the learning environment for us moving forward? And how far away are we from it being adopted en masse?
Well, I think it's being adopted in lots of places. First, what do you mean? There's a lot of people out there who what do you mean by AI, et cetera, et cetera. Look, I look at AI as the latest highbrow in computer science. We could go back not very far and we could see that it could be, for example, big data or data science, for example. There's another branch going forward, which will be quantum computing, if you know what I mean. So, it started out with, discrete electronics through to software, through to, portable programming languages, through to multitasking computers, through to personal computers, through to now the devices and other bits and pieces. So it's the latest highbrow in computer science. And to the point about technology before, yes, you should look at how you leverage the latest in highbrow technology of everything. You should do it sensibly, where it makes sense and where there's a value that you can drive to customers in order to get a business outcome. So no, I fully support it. I mean, I like it. I mean, it's good at some things. It's getting cheaper to implement. It used to be, an exceptionally machine-intensive thing. It's getting with a lot more dedicated silicon out there. There's a lot of sort of TensorFlow and other bits and pieces that's happening. It's really quite a lot more cost-effective, I suppose, to do, which is great.
Yeah, and what about those people then that fear AI and robots coming in, taking our jobs? Where do we see?
Well, they're probably the same sort of people spreading the rumours about 5G, Bill Gates, and God knows what else at the moment. So they're part of the 4 Muppets of the apocalypse, and they probably should go back inside their house with their tinfoil hat. And I shouldn't say that. There are. But one of my latent memories as a kid was my dad came home. He was a clerk in the goods shed at Queensland Rail in Rockhampton, in Emerald, excuse me. And he came back and Mum and Dad were worried. And I overheard the conversation. I'm sure I overheard it wrong, but someone had come in and stuck a computer on the desk. And this is in 1978, so I dread to think what the computer looked like, right? But they all got worried about their jobs. So Dad lost his job eventually in 1996 to a computer. So, it was 18 years later. So these things, there's an argument to be made that this sort of stuff happens faster, but technology does displace. You want to look at the unemployment rate in this country, in most Western countries, and we're about to go, aside from Wuhan flu time, we're somewhere between 4 and really low up to maybe 7 or 8 when it's really high. The ban for unemployment, despite all these massive tech upheavals, not just tech upheavals, but also the upheavals in the way that we conducted business, the Hawke Keating era, when we had, you know, a lot of the productivity and efficiency stuff came through, and you had these massive public service workforces. You know, Telstra used to have like 200,000, you know, employees just out in the field, and they went down to like 20,000 over about 5 years. So, you know, there was all these massive upheavals in these organisations, and even with the growing, and obviously the percentage takes, it's a relative thing, so it takes into account the growing populations. We haven't suffered huge ups and downs, if you know what I mean. It doesn't go from 5 to 15.
Yeah.
Right? From 5 to 6.5 or 7. And very unfortunate if you're in that band. I'm not trying to make light of unemployment, but for the most part, tech tends to actually unleash opportunity, not remove jobs.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned there about inefficiencies in business, and you said to me before we came on that you'd implemented a few tools for productivity within your workplace. Share some tips. What should we be downloading? What should we be using?
Well, not downloading anything. It's all software as a service nowadays. It's, you know, probably one of the more efficient ways to consume IT is when someone else runs all the expensive bits for you, at least the capital expensive bits anyway. And when something's expensive in capital, it's probably expensive in people too to maintain it.
Yeah.
So, we're using a CRM, Salesforce. I'll give them a plug. If they give me a discount, that'd be great. If you're out there, Salesforce, because your product's good, but it's bloody expensive. We've plugged a bunch of stuff in there. So we're trying to actually minimize, we're trying to get down to as fewer systems as possible. So we're centralizing around one, which is too big for what we're doing now, but we have some plans for the future. So we should grow into it. My whole thing on productivity and software is that you can make computer software do whatever you want. How much time do you want to spend, and how much money do you want to spend? There are some things that humans can just do better. So look at diminishing returns. How much effort do you put into trying to get that one field and that formula and that form filled in automatically? Right, that might take 30 hours of someone's labor at $80 an hour. Or typically it's just a boom. And it's a lot of cases, you know, I also have other philosophies around computers don't work for me in that I want humans to check things before they go at other humans. Computers can do billing, for example, really fast, but if they do it wrong, all they do is upset your customers really fast.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to billing, that we tend to have a human firewall in the way. We'll make it as easy as possible. Run down. We'll do check summing on fields and all the rest of it, sort of saying this all should add up. This is what it should be. Very easy to spot errors that are glaring, if you know what I mean. So you don't do a high velocity mass emailing of fucking mistakes, especially when it comes to billing, because billing is the one opportunity you should take to be the most professional with your customer, because they're paying for your existence. If you screw up your billing, you probably should wonder why you're in business.
Yeah, that's okay. Great takeaway there, guys, for that one. I want to ask you quickly about your communication with the team. So you're using obviously Zoom and meetings, and I think you do little luncheons as well. How has that changed with the frequency that you're spending with your team now you're all remote?
We're making a point of everyone being on board with the daily stand-up. So we have a daily stand-up that goes up to half an hour in the morning. We typically does until at least 15. This morning, we just had a deal launch. So this morning it went for half an hour. I think it went for longer. I had to go fly a helicopter, so I jumped out. Actually did my meeting from inside the chopper cockpit, which was a bit of fun. So we're using Zoom. You know, for other we may meet, we'll have GoToMeeting or something. Who really cares? It's video conferencing software.
Yeah.
But we're actually using time tracking software. I actually, until about 7 weeks ago, really hated work from home. Thought it was the refuge of the lazy. We had no choice. We're making it work. It has worked. I think we're probably more efficient, to be honest. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting because you can consider for the last, at least the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of this lockdown, we were actually locked out. You couldn't actually leave your house. Imagine, you know, your work in your house is exactly the same thing forever. So the fact people still had a very positive outlook on it, I thought was actually quite healthy, which means that once you can go out and go to the restaurant and go to the beach and, you know, all those really dangerous things, idiots, then I think it will only get better as people sort of can get out, can get a break from cabin fever, I suppose.
Yeah, so in that respect then, because we're the same, that we had that first couple of weeks where I was a little bit all over the place, and now I'm very much in my comfort zone again now. Like, I actually enjoy working from home, and we haven't lost much productivity at all. Will you be going back to 5 days, do you think, in the office?
I'll probably not to 5 days, no. I've softened considerably on that because of this experience, to be quite honest. I mean, we've got some good tools as well. So we've implemented this really nice little time tracking software called Clockify. I think it's about $7 a user a month. I can't remember. It was like,
was that Clockify?
Clockify, yeah. I didn't really care what, you know, it was that small. I didn't really care. I think we'll work out what it costs, because I do like knowing what things cost. And we were always going to actually, sorry, I'm just looking at this piece. It's very dreadfully unprofessional of me just to sort of stare away while I'm doing this. Team workspace support. Yeah, can't find it easily. I was always keen to implement a system to understand exactly how much time we spent doing due diligence and then deal docs and deal execution before we actually, you know, invested money. We had a rough, we thought we understood that, I suppose. And even at you, an ISR, as a portfolio, we've recently given you some assistance with some corporate matters. And I know we've spent 14.5 hours of lawyers' time on you. I know that exactly. And there's another 3 or 4 hours of deal team time and stuff, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So we know that. We think that's still a good investment, right?
Yeah.
So now we can quantify. We can say, okay, we've put, was it 180 original investment? I can't remember. It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Know your numbers, I always say.
167.5.
That's it. And so we know that, okay, we've got that investment in there, and we also know that we've got that. Okay, so they've come along, they want some help. Do they go to Minters at $500 an hour, or they come to us? But, you know, internally, our legal resource probably costs us about a good deal less than Minters anyway. So, you know, it's probably, you know, I won't disclose what we pay, but it's a good deal less than that. So, but we know that, okay, all right, we're cool. You know, we'll let this run to X many thousands of bucks before we sort of start putting our foot down and saying, you know, Ryan, you probably should get your own lawyer. We've got some good tools there now to assist, I suppose, and we fully understand where we can. We're an investment company. We're about making money for my kids. They're going to get it when I go. So we need to make sure we're doing the right thing, not by them, but also by staff. So this business has to perform for them to keep their job, as everyone does in the medium and long term in every business.
Yeah, amazing. What that actually flows really nice from what I was talking to Glenn about last week. Anybody that saw the session I did with Glenn Richards, that was about numbers and knowing your numbers. And what I like then, you're somebody that's brokering hundreds of millions of dollars deal of business all the time, and then you're talking about Clockify that's $7 per user per month, and you had to find out right there and then whether you were right or not. And if that doesn't hammer home to you guys that you need to know your numbers, nothing else will.
Yeah, it's probably. I've got to find out what I'm paying for this damn thing. Upload image. They all want your image on these things nowadays. They're all very sort of lovey-dovey. Team. Oh, I don't know.
You guys talk amongst yourselves, and we'll.
I'm looking at another piece of software, and the competitive piece of software is, honestly, it's $24 a user a month. And there's other system looking at using will be $1 a user a month, so it's quite substantial.
Yeah,
mind you, that you have to buy 1,000 users at a time, mind you. But anyway, it's still a lot better. You know, it's the same price as 50 on the other system, or 40 on the other system. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, and the guy's telling from America, he's LinkedIn me and found me, and going, oh my God, you're a shark. You know, I'm sitting there having haggling with the guy for, like, you know, 10 cents a license and shit like this. He must have been thinking, who is this guy? And so the companies we invest in, we expect, and I expect my staff to treat money exceptionally responsibly. And if you just think, I've got it, so I can do that. You can do that with your hobbies. You can do that with your family. You don't do that with your business. You always conduct good business practice.
Yeah, nice. I like that. And is that a conscious effort then, Steve, with your team? Do you do financial literacy training and education amongst everybody?
I run a team of deal flow executives who invest in shit. If they didn't find financial literacy training, I think I screwed up my recruiting, to be honest. But so they're probably a bit surprised by how much I focus on expenses. That's fine. I don't care. You know, if it's you've got to control your costs, and to me, it's more like a. I think it's a marker. It's a head on a stick. They know that, okay, we just can't spend on stupid shit. Stephen's gonna look at it and pick it up, and so you've got to set that expectation. Otherwise, you'll turn around one day and all of a sudden it's like, okay, why do we have like 60 subscriptions to Courier Mail? What's going on? You know, so one day it'll add up, and then it's really hard to pull back. I'm dying to find out what I'm paying for Clockify now. It's driving me crazy. Yeah.
Well, whilst you're doing that, we've got roughly 2 minutes of your time left, and I want to respect it. So last couple of things I wanted to ask you were...
We're not up at 4:30.
we can keep going for another 15 if you want.
I had 4:45 on my calendar, mate. That's all.
Yes. Under promise and over deliver. Okay. In that respect,
House people use the house. Bella. All right. Yep.
Now you're all relaxed. Now you feel like you got another 15 minutes. Best use of tech that you've seen amongst, whether it's in your portfolio or just in general, where do you think people have really kind of excelled?
Best use.
Like I've got like ClipChamp for me, or I'm looking at what those guys are doing, and just maybe it's the pace they work at. I don't know. They Go One.
Well, with ClipChamp, I mean, looking at our portfolio, they're a great business, Brisbane-based business, online, browser-based video editor. They've built a tool with a disgraceful amount of telemetry available to them. So they know exactly what their customers, their users and their customers, because they're two different sets. One pay them money, one use it for free. So they know exactly what they're doing, where they're from, what they're doing, how long, where they came from. So, a huge fan of telemetry. So ClipChamp have that absolutely nailed, which is really nice. Best use of tech. Otherwise, there's lots of really sort of, just delightful, cute uses of tech. I think the where you don't have to use it at times is even better. A lot of people what I don't like is when it gets over-purposed. And the system, what we're going through now is we're going through using a CRM instead of using a collection of spreadsheets and wikis and sort of Kanban, sort of free project tools and other bits and pieces. So I'm a huge fan of tech that's right-sized, that's fit for purpose, and that you can maintain. But best use. I more care about the traction. The tech is a tool in order to actually get people on board. So, no, I don't answer that one, Ryan. Sorry.
What about subscription models then? Obviously, from a SaaS perspective, it works on mass if you've got an ability to go out and onboard on mass, right? When do you, as a business, and this might be a selfish question about us, really, when's the sort of threshold of when we change over to becoming a full subscription model? Is there a guideline?
Well, there's lots of ways I can answer that, I suppose. So it very much depends on what you're selling, on the ease of sale, on the ease of consumption. Who do you sell it to? Do you sell it to is it B2C? Is it B2B? Are you selling to a consumer? Are you selling to like a business who's then going to get staff to use it or something like that?
Yeah.
Channel models, etc. So it's there's a lot of facets to the area that question's involved with.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, the businesses we like a lot. I mean, the businesses we think that they have a lot of promise, and there's two sets that we like. The first set we like is what we call the API businesses. So the businesses where you really all you actually have is a little piece of software that allows other pieces of software to talk to each other. We invested in a UK business called Wonde, WONDE. They connect together school information systems, which, given everyone's doing COVID work from home, so there's like 28 or 100 different school information databases that run tuck shops and, you name it, whatever it might be. Just the databases that run the school roles and teachers and rosters and stuff. There's all the other apps like Tuck Shop and Music and all that plug into it. They've got to plug into 100 or whatever, 50 or 60 of these different systems out there. This guy's one system that talks to all the different SISs, and all the apps plug into their system. So, really, really nice, sweet little API system. We love those. They're brilliant. Otherwise, we are really, the product-led growth businesses, PLGs, the fancy term nowadays. ClipChamp would be an example of this. Get the product in for free and then upsell them, essentially. Yeah. So, get in there, get the little free wedgie, and then go wide into the various customers.
You call that product-led growth?
Yeah, PLG, product-led growth. Yeah. So if you everyone out there on Facebook, Google PLG, there's lots of information about it out there, and it's a fancy set of terms. What's been done well by a lot of people. Atlassian is probably the best example in Australia, well over time. But we have another company in our portfolio, Drawboard, who's in the process of doing that. We've got the one we just did the investment for today, Chipper Cash. They're a US-based company, but they have a cross-border payments processing app in West and Northern Africa. So yeah, just get the product in there, get people using it and loving it, and then sort of work out how to make money. It's not quite that laissez-faire, but that's the essentials to it.
Yeah, I like that. That's consistent with obviously what we teach as anyway. Show people how good you are, don't tell them. And if you can do that, kind of get them in low hanging fruit, and then keep them. I'm not going to let you go without asking you, I guess, a Shark Tank-ish question, because whenever I tell anybody I'm talking to you or you're going to speak at an event, which we're going to announce very soon, the next date for the Swish Summit that we've postponed is going to be the back end of the year, where you're all going to be speaking.
Because you're actually putting a line in the sand. Is it a face-to-face one? Is it, or
it is going to be? We're going to go face to face.
You're going to get out there. We should run a book on this one, shouldn't we? You're going to go out there at the date you reckon that our political betters are going to let us walk out of the buildings and like congregate in groups of more than 10. So it's going
to be a small summit.
You think you get that date, do you? Because I'd love to hear that, Ryan. That'd be fantastic. I don't have that much faith in our politicians that they're going to let us do that without civil disobedience, to be honest.
I'm going to be brave. Let's see. We'll test it.
Good.
But what we get asked a lot is when you're investing in companies, and you can use this as an example here if you want. What do you look for in a business? Well, I guess I've heard this before. I know the answer to this, but for everybody else, the red flags, the green flags.
You tell me the answer.
The answer is, firstly, if there's any sort of lies, that's the one that always comes up.
I'll give you a better order than that. That's I suppose the being lied to that's a go no go moment. Oh, you bullshit. No, bullshitting's okay, because there's a difference between lying and bullshitting in the Australian context, right? Bit of the legal term for it's puffery. You puff yourself up. You make yourself look bigger. That's fine. But when you outright lie to us and we find out about, we're like, if you're going to lie to us once, you lie to us twice. So that's not good, right?
Yeah.
So that's just more a straight gate issue. But in general, what we look for is, and we like to say that it's about people, and it is. But what we, in the business sense, what we look for is traction. Have you whatever crazy idea you've got to change the world of whatever? Have you built it, launched it, and do people buy into your story? Is your product worth it? Because the mugs aren't dumb. The punters work you out in a heartbeat. So people are using it, and the product-led growth's interesting, right? Because people get out there and they're using it. Then it's just a way to so what's the best way in order to recover revenue out of this? Way to charge. Google went for eyeballs, not paid search, obviously. Oh, sorry, not paid search for punters anyway. So it's traction. Then it's a team, very very much the team. Then you look at business markers such as total addressable market and I suppose sales velocity, how long it takes to get a sale through the door. And we tend to shy away from enterprise businesses, or we do invest in plenty. I shouldn't say that. People have got a really proven sales pipeline, and we know that they can churn through leads and turn them into revenue.
Yeah. Okay. And on the flip side, not really the flip side, but maybe going more granular with that. You said traction. What does traction actually look like? Is there a amount of time in business? There's consistency of sales. Is there anything?
No, it can be. So the best traction is profit. If you've got profit, you don't need me. Second best traction is revenue. That's good to have. And the third best traction is literally usage. ClipChamp, for example, I think we first saw them had no traction, to be honest. They had about $10,000-15,000 a month in revenue and had a few wholesale customers. Totally changed their business model, and in a short period of time they had almost there's no revenue, but they had a couple of million users. So that's right.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and then now we're busily turning those 8 or 12 many million users into dollars, getting new features, new product support, etc. So traction usage can be just as valuable.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So traction is both usage and revenue. So what I think you kind of
if you have lots of usage, then you should be able to work out a way to monetize it. They don't tend to. They usually come sort of both each together.
Yeah.
I mean, so revenues in some respects in the PLG business, revenues are a lagging indicator of success, to be honest. So
yeah,
it's all about the traction first.
Yeah, nice. Commercialize first, monetize second. If you can't monetize it, then you've just missed a big trick, right? Yeah, good stuff. What about mistakes? What's in businesses that you've had in your portfolio? They might have failed, gone under. What could you pinpoint 2 or 3 obvious things where they've gone wrong, where they had a great opportunity?
Stay away from legal disputes.
Legal disputes?
Stay away from that plague. Don't ever think you win them. Legal advice is always crap when it comes to them. Yeah, legal. That one's pretty fresh with me. So, you can tell by the bitter look on my face. Um, so legal disputes is a big one. In general, it's the biggest mistake is that people don't believe that what they're selling is crap. It's like, okay, it looks pretty. It does look pretty. And it does sound like such a compelling thing to use, but nobody's using it. I think the world's telling you something, right? And that's okay, because, you all start out by saying, wow, wouldn't this be great? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's get into it. Yeah. No one wants to use it or buy it. Okay, no one wants to use it. No one wants to buy it. All right, change the price. Still no one wants to, so you can muck around with this and muck around with that. But fundamentally, if no one using it, your baby's probably ugly, Sorry.
I remember that quote from the event when you spoke in Surfers on the Gold Coast for us, and you said your baby's ugly, and it just
put about 3 beers in about 40 minutes. And I remember that.
Yeah, we do beer you up. For those of you that are thinking about coming to the summit, whether it will be at the end of this year or not,
Ryan's going to run a book on this Facebook group. We'll put your dates in when you think we're going to be allowed to venture around in zombie land out there and have our brains eaten out by all the COVID cases.
Well, we'll just get a big open air space. We'll be all right. All right, and then I guess what I always find interesting is your take on flying cars as well. I always wanted to talk about that with you. Are we're still as passionate about that? You still think that's going to happen?
Yeah, I do. I haven't followed up as much. So for some time, to be honest, I mean, it really is proceeding at pace. There's lots of technology that has to intersect. They're on nice curves to intersect those. So there's battery tech, there's electric propulsion tech, and then there's air traffic control tech, and there's the willingness of regulators to let people fix transportation. So it won't be sold first in Australia, unfortunately, because our regulator is just believes that everyone else is silly and they're the only people who know how to run the airspace. So it'll be sold somewhere else, and then we'll adopt it 5 years later. So I'm just as cynical on how it's going to go in Australia. I've always said that.
Yeah.
Because we just have, we're amazingly, it's a bit like our COVID response, right? We're amazingly in love with our COVID response. We've only had 4 deaths per million, which is raw unfortunate. Don't get me wrong. The reality is, that every one of us has got the same genetic makeup as most other humans. We are going to get it at some point, and that number's not going to stay the same. So we're very proud of that. In Australia, we're very proud of our aviation safety record. And as such, we won't do anything. We'd rather keep aircraft out of the sky. So we'd rather make it more expensive and harder to put aircraft in the sky than anywhere jeopardize our aviation safety record. Without recognizing that we're all adults and we can all actually undertake our own risk calculations. And this is the current debate. Not a debate about wanting to kill people and wanting to stay inside. It's, well, okay, that if you don't want anyone to die, then I'd suggest you hand your car keys in. Because every time you get in your car, you make the same risk decision, right? And you balance the risk of doing that against something else. So same with aviation, same with flying cars. We're going to need to understand that we will kill people in flying cars, guarantee it. They'll fall out of the sky. We'll kill less, I believe, a lot less in the current ground transport. We have to be just prepared for those fatalities, prepared for those coronal inquests. They're going to happen.
Easy. I've just got a couple of questions that are coming on Facebook. I just want to fire them at you. Steve, so I've got, do you have a set industry or sector or business that you invest in? I think I kind of know the answer to that as well. But
look, as far as industry verticals, no. So we've got health. We've had our 2 most recent exits have been in the healthcare space. One with Dosmin, another one with the Tomo Diagnostics that listed on the ASX this year. And I hate health, but it pays pretty good. And with education. In fact, I'll put all this stuff in Salesforce. I can actually tell you the industry groups, the industry sectors that we actually invest in now. I can do it all through data. But no, education, we've a lot of HR actually, HR related things, Inside Sherpa, Vivo, training. You yourself go one, for example, in the training space. So we if people are using technology in order to have a business that can potentially massively scale across the world, then we're pretty keen on it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we do officially have 1 minute left. So I want to say thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And every time I jump on with you, whether it be personally or live like this to the market, which we've never actually done before, apart from at an event, I take just as much value as I'm sure everybody else did as well. So thanks for your time. Give us one little nugget of gold to leave. We're going to survive all of this? Going to be all right?
We will. We survived. The human race survived the Spanish flu, something that killed relatively hundreds of times more many people. So we are going to survive this. business will get back to normal, because we did after the Spanish flu. You know, this literally, this is not as bad as everyone seems to want to make it in order to actually continue their tyrannical control over us. Once again, if I sound like a tinfoil hat wearer, forgive me, but you know, there hasn't been a case of COVID in Queensland now for 8 or 9 days, and we're still locked in and expect to be locked in until September. What a load of rubbish.
Well, we'll finish it there. Steve, thanks for your time, mate. Pleasure. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll speak to you soon.